It's music theory online. Let's learn some theory online by watching modules online with music theory online.
Hello everyone and welcome to Music Theory Online. This is our first module in the Intermediate Theory class. In the Intermediate Theory level, we will be building on what you've already learned in Beginner and in Junior Theory. As with all the levels, I'll be here to help you every step of the way. Also, I'm hoping that you'll be attending Theory Club, which is where you can ask any and all questions. As well as Theory Club, our teachers are all available online and through email and by the telephone. Whichever way you prefer, you can always contact us. Let's just start with a review of the grand staff. This slide shows you nicely how the grand or the great staff works alongside the keyboard. Middle C was written in its own line, however that was too difficult to read and it was eventually taken out. That's why we have to add the ledger line when we write middle C. When you see how the notes correlate to the keyboard, it makes it so easy to see why our grand staff has the lines and spaces that it has. As you know, the treble clef was originally written as the letter G. It evolved to what we now use as the modern treble clef. The note G is easily found on the second line because of how the treble clef curves around that line. Also, just outside the treble clef staff, on the top, is also the note G. That can help you decide how large to make the top of your treble clef. It should be large enough to outline that G note at the top. We can call the treble clef, or we can call it the G clef. The bass clef was written as a German F. It then became the bass clef that we know today. You can still find the F easily in the bass clef. It's between the two dots. In addition to the treble and the bass clef, we also have C clefs. You can have many different types of C clefs, as you can see by this slide. As I'm sure you can guess, the C clef shows you where middle C is located on the staff. For each of the C clefs, middle C is in a different place. You may wonder why we have C clefs. For some instruments, most of their notes fall around middle C, which can be a problem if you're using the grand staff. The C clef helps those instruments because their notes can be written in one staff. Here we see all of the C clefs. You see how each of the C clefs shows you where middle C is, and of course, in each clef, middle C is on a different line. The only C clefs that we're responsible for are the tenor and the alto clefs. These are the clefs that we are responsible for: the treble clef, the bass clef, the alto clef, and the tenor clef. Let's look at the alto clef in more detail. Middle C is the third line. See how the circles of the alto clef outline that third line, or middle C. Music that's written for the viola uses the alto clef. Here's all of the notes on the alto clef staff. Notice how the names of the notes are one note lower than the names of the notes in the treble clef. F in the treble clef is in space 1, and here in the alto clef, it's on line number 1. Be careful though, because the F in space 1 in the treble clef is really above middle C, whereas this F in the alto clef is below middle C. In reality, this first F is actually an octave lower than the F on the first space in the treble clef. The tenor clef is used in music that's written for the cello, bassoon, and trombone. Notice that the tenor clef and the alto clef are used by the cello. Middle C is on the fourth line of the tenor clef. Here we see the notes on the tenor clef staff. In the treble clef, D is one step lower. Remember though that the D in the tenor clef is below middle C. The D in the treble clef would be above middle C. That means the D in the tenor clef is an octave lower than the D in the treble clef. And you thought you were confused before, huh? Here we see how the key signatures are written in all 4 clefs that we now know. It's interesting to compare them and see any differences in the placement of the sharps or flats between the clefs. Let's look at the sharps first. The treble clef, the alto clef, and the bass clef all have the same pattern of sharps. We start with 2 sharps, then 3 sharps, then 2 sharps. The tenor clef, though, is different. The F sharp must be written lower. It needs to be written lower because it would be outside of the staff if it was written higher. The C sharp is really following the same pattern as the other clefs. It just looks like it doesn't because that F sharp is much lower. The G sharp must be written within the staff, which means that it must be written here rather than the other clefs which have the G sharp written higher. The rest of the sharps are in the same location as the other clefs. Now let's look at the flats. All of our clefs use the same positioning for the flats. Notice that there's 2 flats in each group. Really, the only one to be careful of is writing the sharps in the tenor clef. I suspect, though, that if you started to write the sharps in the tenor clef, you'd notice that the F sharp and the G sharp simply doesn't fit. They don't fit in the staff. When you make that discovery, then you'll know that something is incorrect and you'd remember this discussion. So let's just go over what we've covered in this module. The key to the alto and the tenor clef is finding middle C. The reason we use the alto and the tenor clefs is to avoid using lots of ledger lines and or having to use the grand staff, because the alto and the tenor clef notes all fall around that middle C range. Be careful, though, when you're writing the sharps in the tenor clef. Remember that the F sharp and the G sharp will be in a different position than all the other clefs. You'll find it takes a while to get comfortable naming the notes in the alto and tenor clef, just like it took some time when you learned how to read notes in the treble and the bass clef. You're really learning another whole new set of notes. Don't be too hard on yourself. This is going to take some practice. The best way to become more and more comfortable with reading the tenor and the alto clefs is to do your assignments and come to Theory Club. You're going to find a lot more of your theory is using the alto and tenor clefs, so the sooner you get used to them, the better. I'm looking forward to seeing your assignments and to seeing you at Theory Club this week. Remember, if you have any questions, we're here to help you every step of the way. We're in this together, and I'm here to help you. I hope you have a super duper week. Bye for now.
It's music theory online. Let's learn some theory online by watching modules online with music theory online.